Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm a person. The video that ensues is me volunteering as a recovery coach to someone on the phone. This particular person is furious because she thinks her partner is using pornography, and I am trying to help her understand that while the situation is upsetting, her emotional response is actually much more to do with her own thoughts and feelings, or at least like the way that she's responding is dysfunctional because of her own contributions and her own thinking and feeling, which has historic origin. So we talk about that as well as bottom lines and how to journal, and there's a lot of gems in this particular video. It's amazing to me even now watching it again that I can hear my own message, that I still today even benefit from hearing, and staying in the solution. It's really wonderful and really powerful. I think this is one of the more powerful videos I've done in a while. I also even go off on a tangent in the beginning of the video where I share my own self vulnerably, with a revelation that I had for my life, that came to me in my meditation. And I don't normally tell people about that, let alone post it publicly. But I am here to serve as a role model for being vulnerable, so I figured I'd leave it in there. Yeah, I encourage you to look at the description of everything I talk about in this video, and if any of it resonates with you, give it a watch. There's so much to be gained here. If you like what I'm doing, then I'd ask you to please subscribe to my channel in support of me, and as always, leave a comment or ask a question, and I hope that what I'm doing serves you. Thank you. Yeah, I sure did. And just while I'm thinking about it, let me say if at any point you have something that's like really urgent, you can exercise the option of 911 texting me. If I get a 911 text, then I'll try my best to call you back as soon as possible. Um, like send me a text that just says 911. And then that way I can be like, oh, like I mean I may or may not be able to call you right back. I mean, who knows, maybe I'm off in the mountain and don't have service or whatever, but like when I see 911, I will call you at my soonest availability, like if you're ever in that kind of, if you're ever in a place where you need that. So just FYI. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I've actually never had to use that myself either, but it's still kind of nice. I found it's like, then suddenly I'm like, well, is this a 911? Do I need to utilize, and it actually helps me figure out. I'm like, nah, I'm all right. Mm-hmm. Wait, let me make sure I understand. So you on your own computer were able to see his, everything he was doing on his computer, and you didn't, and on his phone, and you didn't set that up? Just, but it was just part of like the Google stuff, or all right, so then you started monitoring his behavior because you were worried about what he might be doing on the computer, whatever. And then when you would find things that he was doing on the computer that you didn't, that you thought was inappropriate for your guys' relationship, you wouldn't tell him that, but then you would like start acting out in other ways where then you would start asking him, or you would start saying to him like, "Oh, I just feel like something's going on," or whatever, and then you would act distant. Uh, yeah, that's the beauty of the fact that I don't have a job right now. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, How much of a tangent do you want to go on? I said, how much of a tangent do you want to go on? Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's and how do you trust me and my health, or I mean, or at least just get to know me and where I'm at or whatever. This is a relationship that we have, and hopefully an ongoing relationship. Yeah. So, um, I I think I told you I quit my I had a 13-year career in my latest position was a systems engineer, and I was a systems engineer for the Department of Defense, and then for NASA before that, and then basically for years before that, I did different engineering business operations jobs with NASA subcontractors. Basically, hey, quit it. Yeah, so my degree is in biology and chemistry, and yeah, long story short, I used to live in Alabama, and so I worked at NASA out there, and then or like with NASA, and then here in Colorado, working with the Department of Defense. But several years ago, I started getting into yoga, and I hated it, and then long story short, I fell in love with it and got my personal training certification and my yoga certification, and started doing meditation, and I found out that I was very different than like the average like yoga person. I felt like because I was like this like grounded like science oriented like I'm great at math and and like there's like these things or whatever, and it's like wasn't just like this like touchy feely, but like I really got into like the biomechanics of things, and um and then like for me that like turned into this like emotional and spiritual realm as well, especially as someone that was severely physically abused as a child. I was very out of touch with my body, and so all of that like basically led me to that. I have known for a long time that I wanted to get into doing like personal yoga with people, and that's actually what I did in Alabama. I did a lot of personal yoga with people, and it's what I did when I first moved out here. But long story short, the universe had some other plans for me to not do that like quite yet, and then but that's always been like what I've been trying to do, and I hold workshops sometimes in different realms that I teach in and whatever. But long story short, I have I was meditating. Oh shit. Hold on. Okay, good, good. First of all, there's a guy that looks like Barack Obama out in my in my backyard. He's repairing the fence. I'm like, whoa. Um, but yeah, so I was meditating in the fall, and it sounds so weird, but I was meditating in the fall, and basically, I felt like the universe like told me very clearly, um, that I'm a guru, quote unquote, and that I have to quit my job by X date and go be a guru. And yeah, yeah, right. So for about a week, I was like running around like all like on this like high off of this, and then after a week, I was like, wait, what? You want me to quit my job by when? It was like 3 months from then. I was like, what? It's a lot sooner than I was thinking. I was 2 weeks late quitting my job. But I did quit. I quit 2 weeks after the date that I was told to, but I did quit. And I mean, I kept for those 3 months. First of all, like I kept negotiating with my job, like, because they wanted me to stay. They're like, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, eh. And so I was tempted to stay, but, I did. I went ahead and just bit the bullet and left. And, I at least considered the other options for how it looked like, but nothing felt right. And then, I of course asked the universe, well, what am I supposed to do afterwards? You can't just tell me to quit my job and then not tell me what to do. And the only answer I've been given is just take it one step at a time and like really do things that make you feel alive and bring you joy and make you feel of service to the universe and to other people, and that, like, doors will open, like, just live moment to moment, and doors will open, so I don't know. Yeah, I had some money saved up I'm living off of, and I'm just hoping that everything works out. Some days are better than others. I get really scared some days, but some days I feel very secure, so it's okay. Yeah, thank you for listening to all that, and thank you for asking me. Yeah, and that's exactly where, like, exactly, like, what else can I do? Like, if I feel like inside my spirit I've been told something, or that I know something, or whatever, like, I feel like once I was told that, and especially like when I originally was just gonna go part time at work, so I was like, okay, well, maybe I can just go part time, just because, quote unquote, God told me to go do this. Maybe that's just what I needed to hear to take other action or whatever. But it's like once I really started making it look this other way, I still felt I could feel, because I can feel my body today. It felt like every single cell inside my body, when I was like going past that date that I was told to leave by, and I was only going to go part time and had a really sweet deal. I could feel like every cell in my body felt like betrayed, you know, um, like, yeah, betrayed, like somehow, like, this isn't what you were supposed to do. This isn't what we're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And then even once I quit, like, cause like I didn't want to quit because there was fear, but even then once I quit, like, I still have the fear. I'm like, oh, am I gonna go live in the homeless shelter or whatever? But like the freedom, like, I didn't realize there's like this opening of energy, or this opening of like relief, and yeah, and I'm like, what else can I do other than that? Like, once I've like been open to these other energies or whatever, like, I can't deny them. I can't repress them. I can't ignore them. All right. So, anyways, we'll go back to what you were saying. So, let me ask you. You said that, like, it sounded like to me that you started on a kind of slippery slope where at one point you started this like monitoring of your partner, and then um yeah, and like then it was like just this one time, and then it was just this one time, and then it was like this obsessive thing, and you said that was going on for about 2 years. What, do you mind if I ask you about that then? I mean, do you want to talk about that, or do you want to move forward on to what you have on your mind? Yeah, yeah, okay. We'll talk about anything else later then. Go ahead with what's on your mind. He's got integrity somewhere down there. No, you're fine. So, um, in this particular instance, when you guys were intimate, he wanted to be intimate with you in the morning, but you had other things you had to do, and so you said, "Can we wait until later?" All right, so he offered to be sexual with you, um, early in the morning, and then, but you kind of had some stuff you had to do or whatever, and it wasn't, you didn't feel this like deep desire on his part, and so you were just like, well, I'm not gonna rearrange my day, for just, so you said that no, you weren't interested in doing sex or having sex or being sexual or whatever, um at that time, but you said, how about later this evening? And he said, yeah, okay. Yeah, but even if it was a previously talked about thing, when you said no, you didn't want to be sexual in the morning, you stated your preference, which was to be sexual. That you stated your preference which was to be sexual in the evening, that evening. No, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So you guys both agreed that morning that you weren't going to be sexual that morning, but instead you guys both agreed that that evening you would be sexual. And then when you got home later in the day, you had this evidence that he had possibly used pornography and masturbated while you were away. But even then you were like, I'm not going to make that story up because I don't really know. And then you guys were sexually intimate that evening, and you said that it was a very deep connective experience. But then the next day or however long later, you saw more evidence, and you feel very sure that he had used porn and masturbated in between the morning that he said that he would, that you guys said, no, we'll do it this evening. So that time during the day, you feel that he used. So and I love that you said that you journaled about it in the talking boundary format. But so what I'm hearing then a little bit of is that you make up that he probably used the porn, like you just said, maybe not to even masturbate, but just use the porn to get turned on. And then are you making up that he like used that to fantasize instead of actually connecting with you? Or like what story are you making up about the porn, and like what so let's go back though. What about it bothers you? So then that's where when you were doing your journaling, what well, so the story that you're making up is that it's a form of betrayal. What is the emotion that you experience? So there's a couple of things going on. So first of all, you can go into a lot of detail about like the specific actions, and this happened and this happened and that happened, and like you like have a really clear detailed picture about the things that happen between you guys, and then like very little detail about like the thoughts, your internal thoughts that happen during any of this. Like that, like for example, with how you're depicting this whole situation to me, there's like very little like relevantly very or excuse me relatively very little like insight into your thought process as well as your emotional process as all this is going on. Like of the entire situation that you depict to me, and let's just say it takes you 30 minutes to talk about all of this, it'd be like 25 or 27 minutes of this happened, this happened, this happened, all these little details, and then 10%, and this is what I thought and felt. And so that's why it's yeah, kind of. And that's why I really support you in doing the exercise of both this journaling type, what happened, what were my emotions about it, and what were the stories that I made up that generated those emotions. No, I'm not saying that you didn't do that, because you did. But I'm just saying that, like, I'd like us to go deeper into that, and in a way, I think that that's kind of like, how I think it's really just indicative of how your mind has kind of, been operating, which is like kind of like obsessing about some of these things, in perhaps possibly, at least in my mind, I identify myself as basically an addict of anything that'll take me outside of recognizing what my thoughts and feelings are. And so, well, and just like you said too, like I really think you hit the nail on the head about, like, so you're feeling really hurt and you're feeling pain about the situation because you're making up, based on your own history, you're making up that this is a form of betrayal. And so that hurt then you mask by then having this sort of rage and anger, whether you express it to your partner or not, you're in maybe a way masking that, as well as I think going to the shame part. Then you're saying, like, feeling shame for choosing a partner that's doing this, quote unquote doing this or whatever, and it's like, how could I, how could this be where I'm at, and there being some shame around that. Like, I totally identify with that, and I think that that's, another reason to sort of want to, not feel these things. But, um, I think we should, um, for either this situation or another situation, or whatever, go deeper into, well, why exactly do I feel betrayed? Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like going deeper into, uh, of course, I love what you're saying about the trust and betrayal of being able to be like, I make up that, I can't trust my partner. I make up that it's betrayal. I'm feeling these hurts of, like, oh, once again, I've trusted someone, and I've had these expectations or whatever of what love looks like, and they're not coming through for me. Um, so yeah, I think that, like, going deeper into this then for you, of like being like, well, what are what what are my expectations? What do I expect from my partnership? What are the secret expectations I have? What are the non-secret expectations I have? And getting clear around those and figuring out exactly what the story is for you and why the story is that story for you. Because, like, but that's not what this is about. This is about you being able to recognize your own self-destructive thoughts or feelings or stories that you make up that have to do with your own history. Because if this wasn't a problem for you, you would just maneuver around it and it wouldn't consume your life. So so the thing is, at least in my understanding, that the universe puts these things in our life not so that it's not about solving this problem, you know? And I mean, and if that's your goal, right, then that's not how I know how to work anything, right? Which is not about getting your partner to change and behave and do what you want to do. It's about you figuring out, how can I stop assigning too much, time, attention, and value to all of this bullshit that, you know, and whether or not that means that um you do the emotional work. But it's not about getting him to change or that to look any different. It's about the universe putting these things, yeah, so it's about the universe putting these things in our lives so that you can get a clearer understanding of how you operate and why you operate that way. And also, is that healthy, and do you want to change? Or if it if it's unhealthy, do you want to change, and how do you do that? Or if it is healthy and functional, then how do you navigate boundaries to be able to remain relatively comfortable with this person that you're in a partnership with? And it might even be that, and at the extreme, that you can't be comfortable in this partnership. But that's where we need to go, is figuring out first, what are the thoughts and feelings that you make up when this event happens, and are those, really getting in touch with that hurt, with that betrayal, with the rage, with the shame, and then figuring out, well, are those stories true? Are those stories really just about you and your own bullshit? And then figuring out, once you figure that out, now suddenly it's like, well, is my thinking functional or dysfunctional? Or am I being functional or dysfunctional? And once you've cleared your side of the street and you're like, okay, now I have, now I actually understand that this is what I'm thinking and feeling, and this is why I think and feel it. And I know that I'm becoming more functional to work with my side of the street or whatever. Then can I live in this partnership comfortably or not? So I think the first thing is really getting a hone in on why you feel betrayed, and whether or not these stories are true, and whether or not these stories make sense, and what other stories can there be, and what other possibilities are there, and is my reaction more historical, and is it the reaction I want to have? Is it the story? If I'm going to be making up fucking stories, is this the story I even want to be making up? Can I change some of that around? Do I have to continue to make up the story that I am? To try to get him to change. You need to just let that shit go, in my opinion. I know you haven't asked specifically, but the whole, you just forget anything about getting him to change, and I'm not saying you need to be okay and just lay down and be like, oh, this is who my partner is, and I just have to love him unconditionally and accept this behavior. You can accept this behavior, and for now, while you're working on, and that's where your powerless is. I actually would be in support of that, with not initiating sex with him, because from what I'm hearing, and I don't know, I mean, obviously I know this much about your life, like a very small amount from the short, but what I hear with you and your pattern is that for you, I think you're afraid of the loss of control. I think you're afraid of the uncertainty of letting go. I think you're trying to manufacture safety and security by being like, oh, if he does X plus Y plus Z, then that equals loving partner. And if he deviates from that, especially in this way that is very triggering for you, you're feeling this fear of like, I mean, it's like taking you to a place of like, now suddenly there's no certainty, there's no, how suddenly it's bringing up all this stuff for you that like you're having to deal with, and your pattern is to feel better, is to like control, and in a way sort of, and that's why I say, if it wasn't this particular issue, I just love how the universe gave you like your kryptonite. But if it wasn't this kryptonite, it would still be something else that you'd be looking at to work out. You have some issues from your past that need to be worked out. And so it would be something else that the universe would put in this relationship to trigger you in your past until you get that shit worked out. Yep, ding, 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 ding. You hit the nail on the motherfucking head. That is exactly what I'm talking about. So, in my experience at least, I used to be addicted to being miserable for my own selfish purposes, because I didn't realize that my behavior, that, especially now that my life is a little bit better, I was not living in this abundant, awesome life And I was doing that because it served me, because it served not being in touch with my own higher power, to not have to navigate what I think and feel and really be in touch with how hurt I am about shit from my mom and dad and blah blah blah, and all the stuff that comes up when I see this thing. And it's like, to get out of that, I obsess about all this other stuff or whatever. And long story short, I think that what you said a moment ago about perhaps taking a moratorium sexually, at least on your own initiation of it, and really you being allowed to be triggered. If you were to terminate this relationship today, your triggering would stop, and it would actually prevent you from feeling these feelings, to be able to figure out what's going on with you and to understand yourself better and how your mind is working and how your mind has been shaped by your own past. So I think that staying in the relationship is good. Yep, exactly. I have the same exact opinion as well, based on the little bit that we've talked about it. I do. I think you're using your guys' sexuality as a drug to medicate some pain that you're avoiding, that maybe you've been repressing for a long time, or maybe even just maybe you're having like a sort of cross-wired value system of like, you're valuable and you're worthwhile because you're sexually desirable or something. I think that there's something. Okay, so we've talked before about your bottom lines and the things that you're trying to work on. So are you writing those out every morning? And then so now you're adding to that, not initiating sex. And then do you have a time boundary for those? So I personally like to have a time boundary, and I like, so for example, like I haven't actually written mine out this morning yet, but I'm on day 2 of 30 for my bottom lines. But like so like when I write mine out, I'll probably do it when we get off the phone, but like when I write down my bottom lines, I'll write day 2 of 30 bottom lines just for today, and I'll write today's date or whatever, and then I'll write out my bottom lines. But then that way it's like I know every day like how many days I have to go towards. And of course you don't have to do that, but I know for me, like I actually recently had some bottom lines that I was trying to do for 6 months, and 2 months in I was like like I threw that shit out the window because I'm like, well, I don't know. Like suddenly it's like it's hard for me to think about like a huge timeline. So in the past, I've always done like 7-day, like day 1 of 7, like 7-day boundaries, or maybe even 10-day boundaries. 30 days I feel is like the longest of a time boundary I can fucking keep. And even then, at the end of 30 days, I can be like, oh, I want to go another 30 days. Somehow I can do that. But if I'm on day 2 of like 180, it doesn't work for me, because then I'm like, it like seems like overwhelming. But I feel like I can actually go 6 months if I only take it 30 days at a time. So you might want to consider just taking like even a week at a time and just seeing how it goes, and then saying, for only a week I'm going to do this, and then we can talk about it, or not, or you can talk to your higher power or whoever, but like then you can change them after the 7 days or whatever. I know, right? It's like 30 days sounds like a noble goal, and then it's like, damn, I don't even know if I can make it through the week. Yeah, right, try a day, right? Every hour. Yeah, I need to go. Yeah, as well as good work with these bottom lines for sure. I mean, I know you don't need my approval, but I think that these are really great, insightful bottom lines for you to be working on. I think that they'll really challenge you and help you see more insight into where your addictive process is and where your patterns are, and what's hard for you, and can you, like we've said before, not like any of this is like some healthy way to be moving forward, but it's just, can I try something different on for size and use it as emotional and spiritual growth? Um, and then also your work. Are you doing any? I know you said you were doing some other technological books, but were you going to revisit anything out of that workbook or? Oh, I meant to ask you. Time out. Are you reading Codependent No More or Facing Codependent? Okay. Okay, good. Because it's, yeah, because I was gonna say I like the Melody Beattie Codependent No More for individuals that are in a relationship with someone who's like an alcoholic or a substance abuser. But otherwise, the PM PM Melodies Facing Codependence is where I think you benefit more. So I'm glad that's the one you're reading. Which one are you? So you think you come from a less than position, or do you think you go in and out of better than and less than? That makes it difficult for you to get him to understand the world the way you understand the world, see the world the way you understand the world, and then change his behavior the way that you think that he should. However, none of his anything makes it difficult for you to get a better understanding about why any of this is going on for you, why it's so triggering, and if it is, even if it's a healthy reason that's also triggering, then why your higher power still wants you in the relationship, because there's something there for you to work out. So, and that is about you and your stuff. So, yeah, and I actually think that you have that bottom line with the thing you said before about not sharing your process with him. So, and I would actually even break that maybe out the wording a little bit into the bottom line. Like I might reword it a little bit tomorrow when you write it out, which is like, I will not share my thoughts and feelings to my partner about quote unquote their relationship or our anything intangible, um, but only ask for my tangible wants and needs. Um, but only ask for my tangible wants and needs. So I feel like that goes into that, what you just recognized as needing to work on the self-containment piece, which is like, and again, it's not that we shouldn't share our thoughts and feelings with our partner, but for you, who it seems like maybe part of your addictive process to get too much into these non-tangible, this is what I think, this is what I feel. um That's a good question. So, for example, your partner says something about, uh, I don't even know. Let's just even, well, and let's even just take it more general, right? Where he's like sitting here going, oh, I don't know. I think the grill works like this and that or whatever. Right? And you're like, I don't know. When I grill, I personally think this or that or whatever, right? Like how much, well, yeah, I mean, so I mean, there could be room to say, well, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to just tell them what I think and feel without it being something tangible. Because then you could say, oh, well, when we're talking about my panty choice or what your thoughts and feelings are about your body and your understanding, especially with as much knowledge as you have about your understanding of shame and body shame, and then let's even pretend he starts asking you, oh, well, what about this or whatever, where you want to start being like, well, in in my experience, this is what I think or this is what I feel around it. I mean, that could be like a slippery slope, but I feel like as long as you can, like, with awareness of like knowing that like you're not trying to go there, you could say something of like, oh, well, this is what I think or this is what I feel, but then like just shut it down kind of immediately so that you're not, because I actually feel, to be honest with you, this is the way the universe works in my life, that as soon as you set this bottom line to like not go into what you think and what you feel, but only ask for your tangible wants and needs, that's when my partner, at least, would then suddenly present more opportunities for me to be talking about what I think and what I feel. Exactly, exactly. And I love that you said that. So, but that's exactly why instead of even right now having to decipher, well, what's my intention with every behavior or action that we're taking, it's like, well, I think normally when I execute this behavior, I'm coming from some weird intentioned place or weird motivated place. So instead of me having to navigate that boundary, right? Because we don't really want to use walls for boundaries moving forward. We actually want to have a nice semi-permeable boundary that we can see when and if our motivation is wrong and stay within a nice functional place. But that requires so much work. So the first step is I'm actually just going to first try to not do any of this behavior. And it's going to be more like a wall where you're like, if he asks you about the grill, you just say, oh, I don't know. Or you can say, like, yeah, right. Or the panties or whatever. And you just say, oh, well, that's interesting. You'd be like, oh, I don't know. I guess I can think about it a little bit and then I'll let you know. And then you say to yourself, oh, well, maybe in 6 days or 5 more days, I'll talk to him about that or whatever. But like, just try for 7 days to like not do X, Y, or Z behavior and notice yourself. I'll do that thing where I like have to walk away as I'm shaking. Ah! Yeah. Because right now, really, at least for me, it's that slippery slope. Like, really, it's not a good way to operate for forever. Like having this walled off boundary where we're not saying what we think and feel, but it's a good exercise to then figure out and notice our internal stuff way more and get a real handle on where we're coming from and why when we can shut it down. And then also by exercising this in the future, we have the choice of, do we go there or not, when right now I personally believe that's part of the powerlessness, especially where you're at right now, which is like, once you get on that wagon, like if you can't not do it, yeah, then. So anyways, yeah, I'll let you go, but you're welcome. I will chat with you again soon. Yeah, bye.